Peace. In the name of Allah, I'm Aubrey Muhammad. I pray that everyone is well. Hempstead family, friends, and believers, welcome to my live session. Right now, this week is coming on Zoom. I'm out here Zoom live. I'm streaming through YouTube and through YouTube to my Facebook channel. And I'm at Eisenhower Park again, and the wind is kicking harder out here than Bruce Lee and Chuck Norris. So see, I got on the dead cat. Catch the wind. It's very windy, but welcome to my live session. And this is developing a healthy self-image through mind, body, and soul. This is part one. And today I have a planned guest. I heard she is psychotherapist, Cherie Dortch. And she will be on soon. She'll be coming in on the Zoom. I hope everyone weekend as well. It was hot, woo! And I was here yesterday, Eisenhower Park, and it's nice out here. It's windy as heck, y'all. I'm gonna give a little oh man, the wind, see the wind blew it around. I'm gonna give like a panorama, a little 360 view. I'm over here by the pond today. It's over here by the pond, and everybody's in the shade. It's hazy, it's hot. And this, you know, that's Memorial over there. And like I said, this wind is kicking harder than Bruce Lee and Chuck Norris. So nice out here today, though. I hope your Sunday as well. And today, let me kickstart this a little. Okay, it's 6:10. It's about time I started. Peace. In the name of Allah, I'm Aubrey Muhammad. I pray that everyone is well. Hempstead family, friends, and believers, welcome to my Zoom live session. Developing a healthy self-image through mind, body, and soul. This is part one. I have a special guest today, my good sister, Cherie Dortch. She'll be chiming in. And I just gotta look for her on here. And she chimes in. And she's definitely gonna be dealing with the mind, you know, the mind aspect of developing a healthy self-image, striving for goals, fulfilling your plans, you know, going through life balanced, as many of us don't. Just to recap, last week, I do have an announcement on the 3rd. I believe that's August 3rd, Wednesday. Come to the Hempstead Village Hall meeting. It won't be the regular board meeting. It's a Tuesday. This is going to be a meeting on the 3rd. And this is dealing with trying to convert Hempstead into a city. It's a failed suburb. It's a they've devitalized black people for a decade and a half. Here, seriously, displaced us by the thousands, and they plan on gentrifying it. And they can't do it without making it into a city where the mayor gets full control and installs his own stooges over the school board. Then they will decide, they will give away the land that he needs so desperately, him and the developers, that the current school board members are holding off. Well, 3 in particular, Randy Stiff, I forgot my sister's name. There's 2 other sisters on there, I believe, holding it off. But they just want to take the land. That's all they want to do is take from us. So all they do is take from us. So we got to fight that. And Monday, tomorrow, be in Harlem at Muhammad Mosque number 7, 7:30 for the men's only meeting. I was out there last week. Last Monday, we was in Harlem, the Martin Luther King Jr. projects, and walking around. Brothers, we out there soldiering, showing love, showing brotherhood, embracing our brothers that come through there all walks of life. And one thing I noticed, I was standing on the corner there, and I was like in C-class sweats and stuff like that. So I was more relaxed. And some of the brothers that was walking by, young brothers, young black men in Harlem, Martin Luther King Jr. projects, just cold, man, and in a shell. Some of the brothers, most of the brothers warmed up, but it was a few brothers. I said, peace, my brother, how you doing today? You know, I had on my mask, I had the final call and flyers and stuff. I was handing out flyers in the final call. And most brothers were receptive. It was a little hot out there last week, a little muggy. But some of the young brothers, man, the young men, were in a shell, man. They were just cold. It wouldn't even respect, it wouldn't even say, yeah, what's up, peace, back. Harlem is a little hard. Harlem always been hard, but I didn't know it was that hard. We walking around zombified, man. And I'm talking, he wasn't on drugs. These brothers wasn't on drugs or drunk. These were solid, healthy, self-image men. They're just cold to reception, man. It was in their shells, you know? And that's what we worked on. So come to Harlem tomorrow, 7:30. Bring all you young men. Grab all the young brothers that you know need guidance, that need direction. One of the things that stood out to me the most that night and evening was I spoke to a brother about why we're so powerless in Harlem. I said, look, we calling y'all out to organize because only us will change this condition. Only black men organized together will change our people's condition. That was Harlem, which has been gentrified first. And now it's coming out to Brooklyn. They did Brooklyn, now they're coming out to Hempstead. They got their eyes on Hempstead. 3 black, all black areas. They don't get no black in the Harlem. Malcolm loved Harlem. He had the beautiful people, man, especially from the South that came up here. That was black power in the 60s and 70s, and they got us the drugs. So come on out tomorrow. And sisters, bring the young brothers out. Drop them off to us. They're in good hands. Then we have to retrain them, get them stood up, organized, disciplined, loving themselves. Bring them back prepackaged. You be upright. Yeah, Ma, hey, Ma, can I get this out of the cabinet? Can I? We're changing. Give them more self-discipline, more self-love. It's not asking for things, permission to do things for you, and respect and protect. And not as a mama's boy. You may bring them to us, a mama's boy, but we return them to you, Allah's boy, because we're the children of the Most High. All right, that's the 2 updates. Come on out to Hempstead Village meeting Wednesday, the August 3rd. That's like almost 2 weeks from now, I think. Yeah. So we can make our voices heard. All right. And I'm just waiting for my sister to come in as a guest because I wanted more of her perspective on the mind, you know, because I'm dealing with a healthy self-image, going from a poor self-image into a healthy self-image. I did like 2 or 3 preceding sessions of that, and you could never stop that. You cannot, don't you know, Allah send you a message. Allah will send you a lesson until you learn the lesson. He'll send you a message, an example in trouble. He'll trouble you until you get the message and you learn the lesson. And we are lacking in this community of a healthy self-image. You know, many of us, we strive for these goals in life. You know, it's human nature that we come up, we have, everyone wants the best. We want the best in life. We want fulfillment. We want self-realization. That's the ultimate. You know, we have survival, that's food, shelter, clothing, sex. And then the joys come. Then there's, after that's fulfilled, what's that? We want importance amongst our peers. Then it's society, then it's social. First is survival, that's deep in yourself. It's connection to your soul and the spirit to keep you alive. Then there's in the society, peer pressure and society of validation, you know? But why do we strive for these goals in life? You know, most of us, especially, I'm speaking of native Black Americans. Black Americans, we've been here for hundreds of years. They've robbed us of everything. They robbed us of the knowledge of self. And we have been the people who have been treated the worst than any other people in the annals of history. We were the worst treated. I could go down the list. It's horrible. You've heard me go down the list before. Robbed us by name, raped us, gave us a slave version of Christianity, robbed us of our culture, family cohesion, and we were terrorized every day. Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad said the worst robbery you could do of people is rob them of the knowledge itself and keep them locked in the ignorance of his own mind. It's the worst robbery we could do. That could happen to a person. See, that wind is kicking here, my headphones flying off. But, you know, and these life goals, now us, we coming up from this, we had them poor self-images. We had them all black towns, we started developing ourselves. We had an inferior education. As you notice, in Christian schools that brought us up, they didn't teach us to love ourselves and to be industrious, to prosper, to be independent, to do something for ourselves. You know, so we came up and built them all black towns. And after we used our knowledge there, they ran us out of there. We went back to sharecropping, then we came up from the into the cities during the so-called Great Migration. And we were steered into the cities for jobs. And we became a pool, we Native Black Americans became a great pool of what? Laborers and consumers. We had homes in, we had industrious things, but we didn't have ownership. They made us nomadic. So what was our self-image? Just go get a job, to labor. Say we built them we had big families. We lost farmland. I believe over the last 100 years, the last 100 years, Native Black Americans, we have been robbed and stolen of like 18 million acres of farmland. We were the farmers, you know? We were the soul of this country. We were the engine. Cotton was king. All other things they did with us. Well, what they taught us was poor self-image. So now we're coming up from that, and we didn't have nothing coming up from the South. What, in the 50s, you know, the 40s and the 50s? We didn't have much. We was poor, especially in the inner cities in New York. I'm speaking specifically from our experience right here in New York, and then coming out to Long Island was supposed to be paradise. It wasn't supposed to be anything else to do. We came out to the suburbs, you know? We came out to the suburbs. It wasn't supposed to be anything else to do. This was it. This was our life that we lived, and we would labor, then consume, go out and party, go to a little church to recharge on Sunday, on laboring to starting the same old rat race again on Monday. This has been going on for centuries. And what is unique to us, we are a specific people who get amnesia. We have cultural amnesia, historical amnesia. My goodness. We are the only people that have suffered for 500 years here in the Western Hemisphere under white supremacy. Well, each generation, well, the last 100 years, because it was so overt then, we knew what was happening then. We just had sellouts during slavery, chattel slavery, for a couple of 100 years. But coming up under slavery, each generation, it's been what like 5, 6 generations coming up from emancipation, 1865. And each generation got to learn a new lesson. That is unique to us. We're the only ones that experience it. Immigrants that come here, especially black ones from the Caribbean and Africa, they have prejudice, preconceptions about us. But with us, we know we were here. You know, they fall under propaganda that they're better than us, and we're the lowly of this society. That to get over us, you know, you've done something that's the status you don't want, to be black at the bottom of this civilization of white supremacy. So, but us, so they come over, they get their wake-up call. They get a little shell shock, okay? they get shell shocked because they're disappointed in the hype. They fell for the propaganda. They started putting movies about us all around the world, disgracing us, showing the worst in us. This happened to us, Native Black Americans. They misportrayed us and Jamaicans as drug boys, always some Jamaican drug gang and stuff. Foaming at the mouth, dreadlock Jamaicans, all dirty and grimy, and just killing and selling drugs. Ever since that came in like the 80s. But before that, black exploitation, that was us. From the beginning of cinema. And they put that propaganda all around the world. So people look lowly at us. We are in that unique position. This is how our image was shaped. And then they use us, the modern day, where we make movies and we bring out the worst, like hip hop, the latest hip hop. You know, that's self-destructive hip hop. The early birth of hip hop was against gang violence. It was against self-destruction. We had records about self-destruction, the same gang. You know what I'm saying? Close the crack house down. The crack house is the White House. That was conscious hip hop. That was killed. You got to come to Sister Neelam and our brother Nazir X that came out with that conscious hip hop. You got to go to conscious, and it's a few conscious hip hop artists around, but mainly we have been the target of a poor self-image. And most of us, and this is why I'm mentioning this, because and most of us, some of us, out of the bulk of Native Black Americans, some of us develop not a full, balanced, healthy self-image. We develop a better self-image through what? Secret societies, masonry, elites in the church, the 10%, being the first one in college, the first Negro. And at Harvard, W.E.B. Du Bois said, I'm pretty sure Harvard is more pleasure with that than I was, than recognizing me as the first Black. And we love that term, first Black person. That means, damn, that means we did nothing before. Instead of putting it in the context that we are the first Black terrorized and tormented and suppressed under this nation that permitted to do so under the system of white supremacy. Put it in context. Don't. Look at it just recently. The first Supreme Court, the first Black woman Supreme Court justice, the first this, the first that, the first this. And you're so happy. We're happy slaves. We are colonized. Our minds are still colonized. And we come up under this. Now we get that low knowledge, especially schools, the universities, it's like narcotics. You see, I've been to private schools. I've been to public schools. I know the difference. I've been in the synagogue, Muslim, Islamic universities. I've been in these places, man. Greek places. These private places, it's a different teaching. But us, it was just, you know, make it through public school, you're inferior, but you go to college. And we used to brag about the first child in college. Not the first one that built industry, not the first one that created something, not the first one that discovered something, not the first one that opened a bank, not the first one that opened a credit union, not the first one that produced things and factories, you know? This wasn't the first industrial things that are power, not the first one that printed our own currencies. American banks for a century been printing their own currency. Right here, the Hempstead Bank. But the Hempstead Bank in Hempstead produced their own notes, their own currency. Did you know that? We can produce our own too. You have that culture, you have the distinction. So our people that got the knowledge became the boule, became the talented 10th. They actually went by these names, you know? And that little knowledge, what they get in the Greek fraternities and stuff, we got this inferior knowledge, man, this lesser than knowledge. But it was more than the average Negro, more than the average Black person. We didn't even call ourselves Blacks back then in the 40s and 50s. We called ourselves Negro and colored. And color was a buffer class of so-called lighter skin closer to massa that had privilege that W.E.B. Du Bois was a part of. Proudly they were doing that, man. And with that little knowledge, he said, oh, I'm a Mason, I'm a Shriner, I'm a 33rd degree, a Black Mason, the Prince Hall Masons and stuff. That little knowledge puffed them up. They felt better than the rest. They didn't have to go after our brother and sister in the gutter. They may have turned towards a family member here and there and help bind in the family, what? To be a bigger pool of laborers and consumers and not producers. As Black nationalists, Marcus Garvey, Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, Noble Drew Ali, that produced nationalist industrialism, doing for self, you know? And that's the nationalism we need, that everyone practices, that are successful coming into this country. So that the image we had, and we even thought we got out of a poor self-image into a better one, but it was still inferior, you know? So with this self-image, we think is good. We don't think nothing else got to change. Or the next thing I need in life, just not independence, but a better job, more luxuries, a bigger house, more material things. It was materialistic, you know what I'm saying? It was beautiful. Had these children running around. Don't throw that stick, honey. you gotta nip that in the bud. They're throwing stuff, sticks and rocks. You gotta nip that in the bud. Let them throw, not throw things at each other, but throw things at targets. Because they children, when they grow up and they're throwing sticks and stones at each other, that turns into what? Severe violence, intense violence. So we had this knowledge. We thought it gave us an advantage, but it just made us a more buffer class, a more privileged class of colonized people. So that poor self-image remains. You know, it remains, and what we had wasn't strong enough to boost us up, you know? So a lot of times with that poor self-image, and think with the better self-image knowledge, not healthy self-image, that's you love yourself. A better self-image than the poor one, we think we have arrived. There's nothing left to do. So this is how we go to school. What do we go to school for? We are poor, we are poor because we trust the rulers of this nation. We trust wealthy Caucasians that employ us, that miseducate us. Well, they underemploy us. They underemploy us, miseducate us, feed us, and clothe us, and provide for us. When you providing for another man, he never respect you. No man respects a man that he has to provide for when he can provide for himself. You know, so he never even taught, he always underaims us. Everything we do, he destroys. That's what gentrification is. It destroys it. So you get a job and you get a nice apartment, you get a house somewhere. Let's use Hempstead as an example. You thought you made it. It's in the suburbs. You got it. You got a family. You got a house. You got a job. You left the city to come to Hempstead for a suburban lifestyle. And now look at what they're doing. They have displaced thousands of us because we're weak and powerless. The better self-image we had, you was the first Negroes. You was the first one at town in Hempstead. You was the first one at Nassau County. 80% of them government employees in the village of Hempstead are outsiders. Most of them white, man. Care nothing about the village. 85% of the government employees in the village of Hempstead are outsiders. They should be paying a commuter tax. We don't have any strength. Why? Because we've gone into a better self-image than what the poor one was, but it's still an inferior one because it's like emancipation. It's within the constraint of our oppressor and enemy and provider. We continue to let him provide for us. We trust him. It is the trust. And we trust in the better self-image. So we go out we spend money on business loans. School loans. We go to school. Why? To get a better job. Now we feel that the job is the end result. There's nothing else left to do. So we got our job and we're on our way. So we don't care about the others. We think about, we had that crab mentality. It's about half of us suffer from that. Some of us, we look out for each other. I remember my family bringing up family members from the South in the 70s. A lot of families did that. Sent some money back down to the South. Sent good things down there. You know what I'm saying? And when we was always driving down there. Vera used to drive us down when I was a child in North Carolina. You know, we had a good time going back to see our relatives, to see our people. Excuse me, let me drink this water. And yeah, I'm waiting for my sister, Cherie Dortch, to chime in. She's gonna be my special guest. I hope I'm not missing her. Well, let me drink this water. Okay. So, we came into Hempstead. We had the house, we have the job, we have materialism, and look at you. You've lost everything. By the thousands, we have been displaced. And we had an example before us. Harlem and Brooklyn, they dreamt it. Matter of fact, the same investors, RXR, is a part of gentrification in Harlem and Brooklyn. They aim it at Hempstead now, Russian oligarch. Go figure that. You got in Hempstead, you had your house, you went to the park. This is Eisenhower Park. And as you know, I'm here because the familiarity. I'm mainly a stranger here to most people. So if I was in the local Hempstead Park, it would be too many distractions, you know, so I'm here. But we came to Hempstead because they had the parks, they had the community centers, they had everything. And what did they started doing since the 70s with drugs? Over policing us. They take that money and put it towards police budget, especially in the 80s, expanded Nassau County Jail. Now you done lost your home, you're struggling. And you're moving, where you go? You move to a lower cost of living. So they guide us because we trust them. We trust, and we moved to Georgia. We all going to Georgia now. Everybody's in Georgia, but more of us going. Some of you come back with your tail underneath your leg. We aren't leaving here going as conquerors, expanding our economy, expanding our culture. We're going as begging laborers, begging another man to do for us. And why? Because it's narcotic. It's a magic act. We trust him. That's how magic is getting over on you. You trust what you're looking at. You trust the person, and you do sleight of hand. That has happened to us for decades in Hempstead. Thousands of you have lost your homes. Native Black people in Hempstead. Thousands have been displaced. Over the last 15 years, I watched with my own eyes. And you thought you had made it. You were the first. You're so happy. You celebrate. You celebrate. The first Black mayor. The first this. The first that. It's silly. The original people. That's the first. Original Asiatic Black. That's the culture. So in this better self-image, you know, we invest so much time and energy. And what does it do? We find out we're disappointed. Oh, I lost my house. Oh, I lost my friends. Your friend's gonna cut you off when you start gaining material things. Some friends you around that's talking about other people and stuff. For poor self-image people, you got a better self-image. You didn't get a healthy self-image because a healthy self-image is holistic. It's mind, body, and soul. Many of us just went in for the materialistic. Okay, y'all, my sister's coming in. Let me cut that off there. My sister, Cherie Dortch. There you are, sister. And why we need to get some psychotherapy, you know, to balance this life.
I think you're right about getting into psychotherapy. Everybody should be in therapy. And it's not, and I think people need to understand that it's not just about diagnosis. I think that's where people get confused. It's not just about a diagnosis.
Okay.
It's about how we, I think it's more about how we act, how we think, how we behave, the decisions we make, whether that's healthy or not. So it's not always about a diagnosis of depression or schizophrenia or bipolar, because that's one that everybody likes to throw out there. It's not always about that. It's about being healthy mentally. So I think that it all begins here, and I don't think most people don't. Somebody actually laughed at me when I said that it all begins in the mind. I'm like, oh, okay, so you don't believe that? Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
I don't know where it begins if it doesn't begin there.
Yeah, but that mental, like you said, the diagnosis, because I've never knew I had a poor self-image. No one ever told me. I never knew I had a poor self-image. I thought that I was just fine, going through the motions, growing up, going to school, going to look for a job, and that everything would be all right, you know, and getting material things. I never thought to create community value or that it had any value. That was the God Duma. I was in Nassau County Jail in the early 80s. And I was on a tier. It was me and a few brothers. And they used to give out top cigarettes that they would hand out to the inmates. It would be like 20 of us on the tier. And so we had some cigarettes. We had a little commissary. But actually, they would hand us like 5 packs of tops. This was a whole pouch of cigarettes, but they give you loose tobacco. And then you would give us a rolling paper with it. And it would be 5 packs. And it's like 20 of us on the tier. We had a little few crews of us. members each. And this CO would take one pack and throw it on one side of the tier, and we went running over there to get it. Then he would take another pack and throw it on the other side, a few feet away. He was treating us like animals, for us to go run and get the other pack. And then some of us didn't get the pack. Some of our crew didn't get a pack, but we saw other crews that got a pack. So we started fighting, we started elbowing each other out the way. Fighting, we wasn't fighting each other, but we was complaining and elbowing each other out the way. And the guard Dumas, he looked at his cell. I don't know what he was folding. I think he had a towel he folded up, and he looked at us, and he walked out his cell, and at the top of his voice, he said, "Y'all are savages, man." And I broke down, That was the guard Dumas that told me that my activity was savage. That's the first time I heard somebody say something like that. It was real direct, and it was to the point. And it's stuck in my brain to this day.
Well, that's one of the things that's the issue with us as a people, is that we've been programmed and conditioned, and it's the unconditioning that has to happen. And I don't know if that happens with every therapist, but it definitely happens with me. I hope you heard that. That's important.
Yes. Yeah, so sister, I wanted to propose like a restoration center. I really think that we as a people, we need an institution that addresses this, because mainly it's like personal now. We only do personal, therapy when we're backed against the wall and it's too late. I think we need a preliminary that exposes this imagery, the poor self-image, to a healthy self-image, and that really need to be institutionalized.
There's I think that we all need to come together on one accord, because there's so many different people doing different things. I actually work with, like a consultant with this organization called Male Restoration that's in Roosevelt. And they work strictly with men, but I think they're going to adding something with women as well. So I think everybody should come together and not just have all these different places, all these different pockets of organizations doing the same thing. I think it just needs to be one whole thing to do for everybody. But I think people have to recognize there's a problem first. A lot of people don't even recognize that there's a problem.
Okay, that's peace. I got you now on a direct, sister.
Okay, good.
I had you on the other phone. It was I had that lag. The lag is gone. Thank you, Jesus.
Good. Good.
Yeah, that's right. The institutionalized, because when we came up here back in the 70s, we had the cultural centers. We had the community centers. We had a whole bunch of more activities that more bound our families together. Even the parks were more alive. Even the bars they had in Hempstead had a softball team. And they all came out to Lincoln Park and went to the other parks and stuff like that.
I remember.
We had way more activities, and it showed. And it bounded our families. I really think
it still didn't take away, to me, it still didn't take away from some of the mentality that was still being played out. I think that people have to recognize that we don't have to conform to white society, whatever they deem as what this American dream is. But I still think that there needs to be more unity amongst us, because we lack that. That's number one. We lack that.
Yes. Because
we've been programmed and conditioned to think that, first of all, to feel inferior. And people don't even realize that. I mean, when I look at some of the women, and I don't want to be, this is just an observation, not a judgment. Okay. I see that there is a lot of self-hate. I just saw a video on Instagram today, and it was a bunch of rappers talking about the color of women's skin, dark skin versus light skin. You've been conditioned and programmed to hate yourself, or to hate somebody who looks black, or whatever the case may be. But I think there's so much trauma and so much damage that has been done that we have to start somewhere. I mean, it may not change in our time, but at some point it may change our great grandchildren.
We got to. I was touching on that right before you came on, about how we the only people that have cultural amnesia. We have historical amnesia. Of the last 100 years, every generation got to learn the same lesson. You know, we hit them glass ceilings, segregation, and we keep trusting a system that aims us so, and it's diabolical and sophisticated. But they have us participating with it in our own demise and our own status as a permanent underclass with a few superstars, you know? And that each generation, sadly, we don't institutionalize it. It's got to be institutional.
You talked a little bit about materialism. I don't think there's anything wrong with having things. I don't, but you have to still know who you are.
Yeah.
And you have to connect to your own people. We're so disconnected. Excuse me, and that was done purposely, and a lot of us don't realize that. We keep perpetuating the same thing over and over and over again.
Yeah, that's right. I think that the cycle could be broken, you know, because the teaching just ain't there. Even in the church, they stopped teaching. They just stopped teaching to want for your brother and sister what you want for yourself. Just, you know,
I don't even want to talk about the church. That's the whole nother topic.
Yeah, that's it. The church and the mosque, I'm gonna include the church and the mosque, either takes us up or brings us down. And sometimes it can help us, but it make us worse too. Make us more selfish, make us more spooky, and it's another dividing factor. But you know, spiritual development, you know, that balance, like we said, material things, how getting them, and we need to be taught how to handle losing materialistic things. Some people will commit suicide if they lose all their wealth, you know? They ain't ready to start over. It's too much of a challenge. It's too much pain, you know?
I think that if you live your life a certain way, you're not going to lose it. If you have a certain mindset, you're not going to lose it. I mean, but I mean, I feel that if there's greed or a mindset of lack and fear, then there will be lost. But I think there's a lot for people to learn and understand about who they really are.
Yeah.
Number one, I don't think people understand that part, or we wouldn't be doing the things that we do as a people.
Yeah. And look how you mentioned that colorism. That's been going on. Actually, that's been going on for thousands of years.
I'm sorry, I never even heard about that until I was an adult. No lie.
Yeah.
My mother's a light-skinned woman, right. So she wasn't talking to me and saying, "Oh, because you're darker than me." That I didn't get that.
The mother, a beautiful woman. Yeah, that's right. Good heart. And that's right. And growing up in Hempstead, as light as I am, so-called light-skinned, I remember I wasn't called light but a few times. I would always have to. What you say, not footnote, but I would have to announce myself as black a few times. But most of us in Hempstead, with all them big black families, and we had other light-skinned blacks around, so we were mainly accepted as that. But I heard a brother, I didn't hear that light skin. I did hear some of the brothers, brother, older one at 299 Jackson say, "Macaroni, dude." Yeah, I'm a macaroni. I said, "What's a macaroni?" I guess it's, you so light-skinned, you the complexion of macaroni. But,
well, Aubrey, you know, I know you since, no, you know, I've known you since 7th grade, and it's something I never even thought about.
Yeah, right.
Light-skinned.
Remember, we was over at Terry.
Or whether you was black. I never even thought of it. To me, you was black. I don't know. But I wasn't raised that way, and that wasn't taught to me. So I think that's where the issue is. You know, people are taught that, and you know, it's been ingrained in us since the beginning of the time. You got people who bleach their skin. You have people who, I had an incident not recently, but maybe a few years ago, where my niece's family was talking about my son. My son was in college at the time, and they were saying that he wasn't going to have a problem. He didn't have to pledge any fraternity. Sorry, he didn't have to pledge any fraternity because he was light skinned. I'm like, what?
Oh wow, yeah.
What does that mean? And me and her end up getting into a big argument because I was like, you sound stupid, you sound ignorant. Because at the end of the day, he's still a black man.
Yeah, that's right.
So I don't even, and maybe about 3 years ago, right before COVID, I did a whole thing with Black women. I had a really, really light girl all the way to a really, really dark girl. And we just had a conversation. My son recorded, I have a picture of all of us, but just talking about their experiences, because you have dark women who have had certain experiences because of the color of their skin. You have light women who have had experiences because of the color of their skin. But I think that's what makes us so beautiful, is that we all come in different shades. You know, but we've been programmed to be against each other because of that, to keep us separate. And you know, that was happening in slavery.
Yeah, and it's deep. That stuff is ingrained. Because I remember a brother, he said it flat out. I was in jail, out of all the places for him to say that. He was in Camp Summit, and the brother was over at the weights, over by the basketball court. And this brother was from North Carolina. He was about my complexion, and he was a little taller and more muscular. That brother, we was out in the yard playing, and then basketball and stuff like that, lifting weights, and we were over on the weight side. It was just us two over by the weights. And that brother looked to his left and he looked to his right. And he was lifting the weights, and he said, yeah, you know, his light skin got to stick together. And I thought over it. And I said, well, brother, and I didn't say anything to him because the shock, I never heard that before. And then all places jail, you know, and so-called lighter skinned brothers, we are minority in jail, because most of the time, who catch the most hell? Young Black men, so-called dark skin, are the ones who don't have realization in jobs and school, and aren't the top students to get.
You know, white people used to say they feel they're a lighter skinned person is easier on the eye. They feel less intimidated by somebody that's not dark. They fear somebody who's dark, because there's strength in that.
Yeah.
But
that's right. And I told that brother, well, I didn't tell him this, but I thought to myself, had them COs come kicking in the door, they don't distinguish light against black.
Right.
Yeah. And I have seen instances of so-called light skin privilege. And I always identified as just all our people, because and then in Elmira, it was a brother my complexion. He was from Brooklyn, and he had the hazel eyes and a low cut, and he was wild too. He was in the cell next to me, and they called him light, but they never called me light in prison. They always, because I guess Orb stuck so much. That was my street name, Orb. But I was like a complexion lighter than them. But they never called me light as much as I see other brothers that they did, and that stood out to me. Yeah. And that's a hell of a culture to latch on to, being so-called mixed with the oppressor and the slave, and to be favored.
Right. Well, that's what it was, and that's what somebody just, because I was talking about this today. That's what somebody recently said too. She was like, they don't realize that because you mix with the slaves, and your great grandmother was being raped by the slave master. Like, that's why you like.
That's
you
right.
know, so, you know,
like me, I ain't got a lot of white in my direct descendants. The white in my family mainly come from slavery. That was my great grandmother, Nancy Miller, a so-called dark-skinned woman. She was enslaved on the Miller plantation, and her son, my great granddad, Wally Miller, he has like hair similar to mine, but he was brown skinned. And the result of my family tree from that Miller plantation getting lighter came from lighter skinned people marrying on other lighter skin. Down in North Carolina, they had big families, 12 children, 13. And the lighter skin from my grandmother's maternal side came from my great grandmother, that was on my great grandmother. She was mulatto, and my grandmother was black, a lighter skinned black. And that's where the light skin really started coming in. But that literally, and the stress from that, colorism, that's a hell of a stress. That brought up the term tragic mulatto. You ever heard of that? Tragic mulatto. You trying to live two lives. That's beautifully displayed in the movie Sankofa. SAN.
My grandmother was one of my mother's mother was one person who she would pass. She passed for a white woman.
Oh, your mother's mother?
Mm-hmm. And
She was
look
mulatto?
at me, I'm only 2 generations away,
Yeah.
and my father was chocolate.
That's right.
I'm not like, I think, and those are the things that keep us separate. Those things are the things that keep us from unifying because they've ingrained out in us, and people are still using it today and don't even realize where it comes from and what it's about.
That's right. An obscure tradition. And I noticed it in us, but how
Really?
we as Black men, in particular so-called darker, how we fetish lighter skinned women. And some of the women I would look at, so-called light skinned, they would be kind of busted up. They were not attractive women at all. Because they were light skinned. They would be fetish, you know what I'm saying?
I swear to you, I was in my 40s by the time, except for once, I don't know if you know Kim Johnson. I'm saying this live, yes.
Okay.
I used to work for General Motors back in the day. I started working at the police department at 23, so I had to be 21. And I sued GMAC for discrimination.
Oh, wow.
And Kim told me that she said they're not gonna listen to you because you were jiggable. I was like, what is she talking about? What do you mean? I was just so, but I won, jiggable or not.
Oh, wow. Praise be to Allah.
So, but I was just so taken aback, like, what? Like, seriously? Like, and this was in the 90s, so.
Yeah. My sister tried to get a job with them in like 2000.
Really?
Yeah, GM.
Yeah, well, they're very racist.
Yeah.
Well, when I was there anyway, in the 90s.
That's right. All of them are. Them corporations, developers, landlords, they rule this country. And they get away with everything, and that's where white men have that self-realization. Black women do not admire white men. Attractiveness and you know, on average, black women admire Black men. And the white boy, how is he admired? We naturally don't admire white people, Black people, and naturally, we don't admire them. They manipulate us economically to have us, you know, the chicks.
You really think that?
Chasing the farmer with the feed.
That we don't admire them in some way?
No, that was all economic. That was economic. It's all economic.
You don't think Black women admire them in some way?
No, it's all about economics. It's all about power, control, and economics. Because I'm talking relatively. Not, you know, I know there's a small percentage of people who are universal, who admire and what you say, admire, and what's the other one? Repel from certain people. Well, that's in the DNA, you know. That's in our nature, because original people, when you go to Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad said original Black man was jet black, and he said wherever you go, the original Black man, you will find the Black woman one shade lighter naturally. So that happens in nature with men and women. And but no, relatively, I'm not saying it's an absolute rule, but relatively, people admire their own kind. And through frustration, you get so sad with the games, the game playing, the manipulation, that you get frustrated, so we leave for another race that admire us. We are attracted to other races of the people in those other races that admire us. Someone from another race that tells you you are beautiful, and you may be rejected by your own. Someone may even call you ugly. But if another race person tells you, yeah, that's like the Philippine women. Philippine women are most attractive to most men around the world because they're more docile, and they're more like they're more docile, and they're more smaller and more petite, you know. And that's a natural occurrence. But look at China. China, that's the same Asian women. The Chinese are so propagandized with white supremacy that they will go. They try to get as pale porcelain as they can.
Yeah, no.
And the original Chinese was black. Shang,
yeah,
first dynasty.
They don't want to be in the sun. They don't want to get.
That's right.
Yeah.
And that's bad for genetics. You know. And look at racist whites in this nation in the South. They were so racist and hateful, they do inbreeding down in Alabama. You know them backwoods and stuff, crackers and stuff.
My mother's from there. My mother's from Alabama.
Yeah, they do the inbreeding. That's out of anger. And what is your anger? You rely on yourself, and that's your weakness. Weak people do that. Strong, strong. The thing about Black Americans, we got such a strong genetic pool because we mix so much. And even the Caucasians here have a stronger genetic pool, and they're built differently than Europeans. Their food is different. That's because they mix with us so much. So it's definitely a science to it, and we coming out at the bad end through that colorism. Because I used to think that, I used to literally think as a child in Prospect School, in the middle school, I still had that thought. It was a 5% nation that got that out of me. It was a 5% that said the Black man is God. And they exalted so-called dark skin as original. So I respected that. I always connected to that root and accepted that truth.
I think that's the truth. That's how I think. But what were you thinking back then?
Well, back then, in the Prospect School, in the middle school, I was in Prospect School, let's tell the truth, I was adored. I was a little advanced student. That was me, Vincent Norman. We was the same complexion. Keith Stanley was a so-called lighter-skinned brother. May Allah be pleased with him. I used to love Keith, hanging out with Keith.
Well,
and
you had a head full of hair. You were like a little doll.
But I'm saying that was me. Now I had that was me, Vincent Norman, and Diane Harris, I believe, Dwayne's sister that lived on Angevine, I think. Dwayne, me, Vincent, and Diane. Diane's a so-called dark-skinned sister. We were in the advanced class in Prospect School. They used to pull us out them classes and take us into some advanced learning class in Prospect School. They did this for us. But I felt the privilege of light skin, and I was just treated differently. I remember thinking back then, we always were taught, and this came from my family, that if you were lighter skin, closer to white, you were smarter, you were better. And if you were so-called darker, you weren't as good. And if you were lighter skin, you were more intellect. You would do better in school. And if you were so-called darker skin, you were better at sports. I used to project in my mind, this is in Prospect School, that I was actually more advanced anyway. I was just advanced learner anyway, because three of us made that criterion. Not too many people made that criterion. So I used to, but still with the stereotype, I believe that being so-called lighter skin or closer to white, even looking at white people, that they would perform better on school tests. They would do better at math. I believe this in Prospect School. I went for that crap that they gave us, Henry Hudson, Christopher Columbus, discovering things. I went on that mission. I remember it was narcotic. I went on that journey. I believed that hype. And they showed all that white imagery. And even Black teachers, there was some beautiful Black teachers we had. And a lot of Black, Prospect School, Black then, all Black.
Well, you know what I think had an effect on me that I didn't. I can still recite this poem that I said at 14 school, but I won't. But my brother was Muslim, and my sister-in-law when I was little. My sister-in-law. So I think even the way I eat now, I think all of that has had an influence on my life. I never became Muslim. I had two brothers that were Muslim. So I think what I was being taught through them, because I was the baby, and me and my brother, we were 13 years and 14 years apart. So they were much older than me. So they would, certain things weren't being discussed in my house, and those kind of, my camera is blurry, but that just wasn't being discussed in my house, color at all. Like all my mother's siblings are white. All my mother's brothers and sisters are pale. I never felt any different because I was darker than them, because there was a few of us. I had a few cousins that were really light, and then I had a few of us that was brown, because it's weird because all of my on my mom's side, my aunts and uncles, they all married somebody dark.
Yes. That's right.
Even my aunt is light. She married, her husband was dark. All my uncles, all their wives were brown or dark skin.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Them dynamics we had. Well, back then in the 70s, we were all black and proud. So that was
Yeah, maybe that's
powerful
why.
on us. That in the
Yeah.
70s, we really were black and proud. And I really missed that, because I didn't develop a healthy self-image to the 5%ers, and I started doing the teaching, and I was self-taught in Islam, and then like positive self-image and goal setting and stuff like that, of that actual training. But actually, and as I came into Islam and studying and stuff, I didn't have too many white friends. The only white people around us was like white Rob. We called them White Rob. We were at the Courtyard 299 Jackson. We had a brother who was a lighter skin complexion. We called him Black Rob. That was Rob Mansfield. Good brother. He just passed. May Allah be pleased with him. He lived upstairs. We were at 7F. They were upstairs, the Mansfields. And Rob, we called him Black Rob, and we called White Rob, because it was a white family, the Henrys, that lived in the front apartment. And that's the only white friends we had. Marchette and Rob, that was it. I didn't have no white friends, no peers. But then when I got the knowledge of self, started studying, improving my life, now I have white friends, white comrades, white associates, in all walks of life. I have luxury, money, good home, friendships in all walks of life. That's right.
Friendships.
That's simple.
Friendships. I have the same whites and Latinx friends. And do I look blurry to you? Am I blurry?
A little. I'm on the phone here.
So, okay, there we go.
No, that's a lot clearer. Yeah. Right, I have the profile up here. Yeah.
I do as well, but some people I just don't trust.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
That's right.
And I mean, and they've created that, so as a whole. So
yeah. And I think that you see how they're putting off critical race theory? I think, no, we need healthy self-image and the truth of the natures of our people taught in school. This needs to be taught, because this is a dividing thing.
Well, I think the critical race theory, I think when children are taught their true history, I think they don't want to do that because it will probably create a lot of guilt for non-Black children.
Yeah.
It will create, and they'll probably hate their ancestors, which will probably create some self-hate. But if they knew the truth, because they talk about Black people being savages. They're savages. Look at all the things they've done.
I think it's a little watered down though. I think it need to be very, I think, I think we need, as Black children, we need how they have special ed? We don't need Black studies. We need our own cultural teaching in the schools. Each culture that whether they're Arabs, whether they're Asian, whatever you're Native American, you need your specific culture taught to you, not everyone all at once. And that's the problem. We the only people that have been deprived of this. Native Black Americans.
I feel like that's why we've been deprived, because the truth would have to be told.
Yeah.
And the truth is not pretty.
Right. Yeah. Because a lot of the immigrants that come over here are really more industrial, they're more ambitious, they're more driven. When you leave your country to go to another country, you got to have some drive. So we've been so conditioned here. We've been so we have put our trust in it. We put our energy, our investment, and we get the last, and we get the bottom of the barrel. So we pretty much got to start focusing on making our people more industrious. And we really got to make some serious changes,
Well, I think people will come. Go ahead. What are you gonna say?
Oh, now go ahead.
I was going to say, I think people come from other countries. I think yes. I think their mindset is more about work and not about getting an education, even a basic education. It's not about. So, but I don't think that's always the greatest thing, because I think you can go further. And I don't mean you necessarily have to get formal education, but I think education is important. You just read a book.
about visualization. Like, and we're talking about imagery, the divisiveness and stuff, about how what's lacking, I think, in the educational system towards developing a healthy self-image is visualization. I remember a Harvard study years ago, this was decades ago, even Professor Robert Blair spoke about that visualization at Harvard, where they took some students, they took 3 types of students. They were all average basketball players. They were all just regular and average. And one of them, they said, you spend a whole week going out to the basketball court and shooting hoops. That's all you do, is you just shoot hoops. And the second group, they said, you go out and party, you can eat pizza, you can study a little, and then one day out of the week, just go and shoot a few shots here and there. And then they told the third group, you don't go anywhere. You stay in your dorm and you stand up and you visualize that you're making the shots. And that's all you do all day, visualize. And when the results came, they took all them and put them on that basketball court. And the one who was casually told, go eat pizza, go do a little study, one shot, he did the worst. Both of the people that practiced and the one that visualized had the same results, similar results. Yes. That was amazing. What visualization does.
Yes. Yeah. I don't think people are ready for that. You know, it's science. It's not new, but it's new to some people. I don't think people are ready for that because they have a different belief system. But I'm going on a retreat in Dallas. It's a conference in Dallas in October for kind of the same stuff to learn about heart and brain coherence, which is so. And my thing, I'm hoping that I'll be in the schoolwork, and I'm hoping that they allow me to go because I will be learning that because I'm teaching children. I'm teaching them mindfulness now, and then learning about being with their emotions and learning how to elevate their emotions, just sitting for 10 minutes at a time, just learning how to, because everything's in the body, you know, and I can go on about how we hold certain experiences in our body, how it affects us, you know, and people think disease and aches and pains just come from whatever. I don't know what they think, not eating right, but it's more than just not eating right. It's our experiences. And we're people who have experienced a lot of trauma.
That's right.
And the symptoms, I went to a psychoanalytic institute. One of the things I learned was that the symptoms are in the body. And then as I continue to learn on my own, because I'm always reading, I'm always, you know, this conference is really big because this guy who does it, his name is Dr. Joe Dispenza. He's a neuroscientist.
Okay.
So I follow him a lot and I read all his stuff and it's just really interesting. And one of the things is visualization that he talks about. But you have to have heart and brain coherence, you know, and when you have to be able to open your heart. And if you can't do that if you are holding grudges, being envious, in competition with everybody, trying to, you know, be one step ahead of your best friend, you know, and stuff like that. It doesn't work. But I'm learning more about it, and maybe when I've mastered it, I'll come and talk to you about that because visualization is a part of it, and it is a part of being able to create your life because we're creators. So
that's definitely what we need. That's right. A new form of thinking. We need a new approach because this system has failed us. We need a new approach that'll dig deep down into our soul. Like that's what attracted us to church. We go to church because the preacher will be up there hopping and hooping and hocking around, hollering around, but at least he would be touching to our pain. He was in a lot of pain. We wasn't getting healing in the church. That's why a lot of people that came into the church get worse. You see them sometimes, you know?
Well, this is what this is called. It's called coherent healing, and it's about healing your own mind and body. And so,
and it's true. That's right.
Yeah, and visualization is a part of it. It's being able to get in a certain state mentally and physically, and being able to see yourself healthy or whatever it is. Even seeing whatever you want to experience in life. That's
right. And they have a saying about education. We have a saying like if 10 of us are standing around here and someone takes a picture of us and then later on we are each shown that picture, what's the first thing we look for? We look for ourselves. And that's a problem in this miseducation, how we see ourselves as last, inferior. We should be lucky to be around white folks.
Yeah, well, I'm going to be honest with you, and people are probably going to hate that I'm saying this. I think religion plays a part in that as well. I do. I think it plays a part in our negative self-image because we are not worthy and all these other things that you know they talk about. So I think that plays a part. You know, I hear people, I see people posting on social media about how does it go? I'm not, something about not being worthy. And undeserving.
Undeserving. And we
So,
think
like,
we deserve abuse and the pain.
Right. Like in Christianity, when we talk about, you know, I always think about a religion being given to you by your slave masters, you know. So, you know.
And they weren't even Christians. Most slave masters were in secret society. They were Masons and Shriners. Most of them. Because they had to undermine us.
Right.
That's right.
I just think that I think that plays a part in keeping us feeling. When I say us, I mean Black people, keeping us feeling inferior. You know, because I don't feel that way. I know something different.
That's right.
So,
but we came from it. We know what it's. We had the experience as young. I had it. And that thing is terrible. You don't think you could do nothing.
Right.
That's right.
Well, I was fortunate. I'm so grateful for my mom because my mother, you know, I was hated by girls still today because of, you know, she thinks
you escaped.
Yeah, but but I'm grateful. I was just telling somebody earlier today, we were talking about it because he's from Terrace and he doesn't live there anymore, but he's had a lot of trauma.
Who?
A guy that I was talking to, he said he had a lot of trauma from living there.
That's right.
And I understood, but I said, you know, I was so happy that there were certain people that women, girls, but they women now, they probably still don't like me, which is stupid. But you know.
Well, that's that we think because
I'm happy that they didn't.
Yeah. Well, because we think that's because we had that psyche, like we say, everything close to white is all right. And we think that speaking properly, we should master the English language. We are the authors of language. We should master even Arabic, Chinese, Mandarin, and different language, Spanish. We should master those, not only learn them, but master those languages, master math and culture. We think that doing things properly, doing things by the books, doing things, what you call that?
Things different.
Allegorically. Not allegorically, logically. We associate that with being white. You know, and we think that everything ignorant, dumb, and ratchet, and kind of wild is like Black. I remember that.
Yeah. So,
social engineering. We got to re-engineer.
Yeah. And people don't even realize that. It's just like, I see a lot of people in therapy, a lot of Black people, and these are the kind of conversations that we have because, you know, they have to make some kind of change in their own life. And I'm just happy to have been a part of it, you know?
That's right. Well, and I actually want to ask you one more question in regards to what you just said. Like, what you think is the main reason that people come to you for psychotherapy? Psychiatric therapy.
A lot of different times, a lot of different things, rather. Sometimes people are depressed, they suffer from anxiety. Their life isn't going right. They're just, you know, I'm going to say they're in pain. Most of the time,
mental pain.
Mental, physical, emotional, mostly. You know, I've had people who tried to commit. My son's dad was just telling me he wants me to not do it anymore because it's dangerous. I'm like, this is what I do. You know, somebody tried to commit suicide, then you don't know what they might do. I'm like, but this is what I do. And I've had many people who have thought about it, who have tried to, and they are doing well now. So it's really about changing your perception.
If they mention they will commit suicide, the potential is there. That's correct.
Right. So
most of them do it for attention.
But he's saying that if they'll kill themselves, they'll do anything. I'm like, that's not necessarily true. That's not necessarily true.
They want a lot of guilt on people. So when they kill themselves, they want people to feel guilt about what they did to them or lacked.
Some people might feel that way, but suicide is more about emotional pain. It's so much pain that they don't feel like there's nothing else is ever going to make it go away. It's just they're just in excruciating emotional pain.
That's right.
So, and sometimes, I was saying that I had a guy who tried to hang himself, maybe back in 2009, maybe, and he was seeing. I was working in a clinic then. He saw somebody in therapy. He came to see her on a Saturday. Sunday, he tried to hang himself.
Wow.
He went to the hospital. So what happens is, working in the clinic, they assign you the patient. So when he came out of the hospital, they gave him to me. He has not tried to commit suicide since. I'm very honest. If anybody that's in therapy with me would talk about their therapy session, I'm very honest. I'm very upfront. I'm very open.
Yeah.
Very transparent. And he learned a different way, and he still sees me sometimes. It's like, so he's not in therapy regularly now. I see him every other week. But but there was a time when he wasn't in therapy at all. But when he goes through things, I guess he becomes concerned about his own, mental health. Yeah. So then he'll come back into therapy, which makes sense because some people are more severe than others.
Yeah, that's right. Most people just need a shoulder to lean on. But the key, like you said, is follow up, making sure these people are okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think as Black people, we've all experienced some kind of trauma or something from our past. So the thing is, we're always operating from the past, our past experiences. How we show up in life today is based on the things that we've learned and experienced throughout life. So the goal is to find out what some of the things that you do that's unhealthy, or even things that you might want to change. And that's what therapy is about. That's what we're talking about in therapy. I also do a workshop on emotional intelligence, which consists of the same thing. Yeah, I do emotional. It was self-mastery, because you got to learn how to be more control of yourself and stop allowing other people to control you.
That's right. Yeah, that's a deep advice, sister. That's a very good advice.
Because that's what we do. When we react into everything that everybody does and says, we're allowing other people to control, and we become their puppet. I say that to the kids.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah.
You sure do.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go. I gotta do a load of laundry.
All right, my sister. It was beautiful talking to you. Yeah, we had a little lag in that early audio, but I'm glad I got that corrected, because this was valuable information. And do you have any events coming up that people could join you?
I'm doing a private dinner for some of them.
That's a private dinner? Okay.
I'm doing a private dinner for some of my clients. It's a women's empowerment series, and I'm inviting a few outside people. But
you have a waiting list, right, on your therapy clients?
I do.
Yeah, you have a waiting list.
I just hired a new therapist though, so
okay.
So she should be starting August 1st. Only other thing I can talk about is emotional intelligence. I will be doing another one in the fall. And I don't think a lot of people know what emotional intelligence is, but it is just learning how to learn self-control, learning how to show up in the world in a healthier way and communicate healthier. It's about self-awareness. So, that's
I really appreciate you, sister. Those were some golden jewels you gave. And I'm glad to have been on the live with you.
All right. Thank you for having me.
All right, my sister. Right. You can sign off and I'll just finish up. Yeah, right. I'll definitely see you later. Right. Peace unto you, sister.
All right.
Bye. All right. That was my beautiful sister, Cherie Dortch. You heard her. She's a professional psychotherapist. And we grew up together. We was over there on Terrace back in that was the early 80s. Yeah, and had a good youth coming up. And the thing with me, I hit the street and everything. I was a whirlwind from 1979 to 86. I was hanging hard, but I remember good people. I remember good friends, and it's always beautiful to come into contact with, I can take this out now. Yeah, it's always good to come into contact with good brothers and sisters like that, my sister Cherie, because it shows how we grew up. We went through challenges. We went through different paths in life. Matter of fact, my sister went, I should have mentioned this to us, but I don't want to drag her on. She went to Holy Trinity, and that was a private high school. And after I hit the street, I was bad. Then after at Lincoln Hall, they had given me a scholarship to go to any private high school on Long Island. I think I didn't choose Friends Academy, but I chose Holy Trinity, but it was a reverend there that he didn't want me there. He said, I'm gonna hold you back a year, and I could just tell by his spirit. And I literally went back into the high school and left after 2 weeks there of getting into a beef with somebody on the other part of town. And I dropped out of high school then after going 2 weeks. And Miss Cooper, the guidance counselor, she was upset that I had did that. And my moms, they were there in the office, that was Miss Cooper and my moms. And I said, well, I'm gonna go to night school. And they were disappointed because I didn't want to tell them about the beef, you know? It's things like that that separate us. You know, you're on a path, you could do something. I didn't have the patience to wait another year like that. I was like Colin Kaepernick. I wanted the gusto to go, but didn't realize that I went further into the street with that rough life. And now, look at our sister. This sister's healing. Mental healing is powerful. We have these goals, but we got to connect the mind, body, and soul to them. Just being materialistic, just being vain, just being, what's that? Wanting validation, all the wrong places. The key is within, getting validation within, loving yourself, elevating our people. Come on, we got to get up together. We got to get a restoration center, a resource center, world class. We can start nice. We ain't always got to start shabby and lowly. Let's start doing things nice, world class, make an impression, do things new. Cultural resource center where we have psychiatric counseling and programs, and where we have even Dianetics, auditing. That goes deep into your reactive mind, where all this anchor or these pain and trauma is anchored until your reactive mind memory bank. So many of us walking around and we operating from the reactive mind, where all that trauma and pain is pushed and banged down in there. And we need, relief. We need clearance. We need clarity. And we can do that. Mind, body, and soul. All right, family. That's it for this part 1. And the next part is going to be part 2. That's developing a healthy self-image, mind, body, and soul. And for part 2, I will have massage therapist, Jackie Hill. And she will be dealing with the body and that balance. Because a lot of us, we imbalance. We got things in life, it looks like things is living. Like you said, you could be wanting to commit suicide. You could have everything but have nothing at the same time, So let's strive for mind, body, and soul. And remember, Wednesday, come on out to the Village Hall, Hempstead Village Hall, for the meeting, because we're going to oppose Hempstead being turned into a city. We need culture center. We need industrial factories. You know what I'm saying? We need resource centers. We need to start financing our own infrastructure to create generational wealth. We can do it. Generational mental and physical health and wealth. That's right. We can do it, family. Okay, thank you for joining me. And family, I leave you as I greeted you in the ancient Arabic words of peace. Assalamu alaikum. Peace unto you. Have a blessed, graced evening.